On today's show, the San Diego Padres drop another NL West series, perhaps in an even more embarrassing fashion than the last one, as the NL landscape and even playoff picture continues to change rapidly right before our very eyes.
You are Locked On Padres, your daily San Diego Padres podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to an edition of Locked On Padres podcast, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for Monday, June 16th. As always, I'm your host, the San Diego Padres fan from New Jersey, and I've been covering this team for almost 6 years now for not just this podcast, but also various outlets, including JustBaseball.com, chief among them. You can follow me on Twitter /X and Blue Sky at Javipeno, Javiipeno. Go check that out if you want any of your questions, comments, or concerns addressed. On today's show, though, we are not only recapping this weekend series, but we're also going to be talking about Jackson Merrill's big injury and a little bit of a shakeup, not just because of the Padres, right? That opening title, The Landscape, I wasn't just doing it for the easy, the easy hook. I was also saying it because the Giants made a crazy move in acquiring Rafael Devers from the Boston Red Sox, and then we're going to get into a couple of your mailbag questions. We have no time to lose, as you can tell, guys. So let's start with this weekend, all right? So here's the thing. Depending on how you want to take this weekend, I really think that you could take it in the glass half full or the glass half empty. And the glass half empty is what we're going to get into, right? But let's start with the glass half full before we get into that. In a way, you could just kind of maybe explain it away. Maybe just give people a little bit of an ease of their concerns and say, you know what? Padres did lose this series, 2 out of 3 games, and one of them was in spectacularly bad fashion. But let's look at it like this. Just a couple things. Game 1, you could just say, it was a little bit of an off day for the offense. Zach Gallen had to have a good start at some point, and it just wasn't great, right? And it's a young, inexperienced pitching staff at the back of this rotation right now with Randy, with Ryan Berger, with Stephen Kolek, right? And that was the case of Game 1. Game 2, you could just say, all right, well, we're not going to have a bullpen implosion like that very often. That's rare, and Robert Suarez has been very good this year. Game 3, you could say, hey, we did great, and Pivetta had an awesome bounce-back start. And in general, like I said, the starting pitching wasn't available. They weren't at their full strength, right? So you could look at it that way. But in my opinion, overall, this is a tough series. And this is why last week we talked so much. And this is why when I talked with Millard, I was not just doing it for the hook. I mean, I do like doing the hook. We love them algorithms, let me tell you. But I wasn't just doing it for the hook when I said the very scope of the NL West can change rapidly by the end of now this upcoming week. Because not only did the Padres play the Dodgers, but they also played the D-backs, and they're playing the Dodgers again starting tonight for 4. By the end of this week, we could have a very different landscape. Now, don't get me wrong. We still got a while before the trade deadline. But things can change rapidly. The momentum can change rapidly because of so many division games back to back to back, right? That all of a sudden, the D-backs are a big player, right? They're going to be a big player this offseason, or I should say this trade season, because if they do decide to be sellers, they will have the best pieces to ship around, and if they ship them around, makes life easier for the Padres, and if they don't, that's another team they have to compete with. So there's a lot to get into, right? Let's start, though, with let's isolate things. Let's do it. Game 1 of this series that the Padres end up losing. In my opinion, I don't have too many notes. Padres just didn't show up. The only run that they scored was off of a Luis Arraez lineout from Fernando Tatis Jr. And Stephen Kolek, the Kolek Kingdom, suffering a mighty blow in this one. Only 4 1/3 innings for my guy here in this one, giving up 5 runs, 4 earned, 2 walks, and 5 Ks. In my opinion, he's been pitching pretty good for a while now. I really do. I think that he's been actually pretty solid, although a little bit disappointing in some areas. He had, obviously, at Colorado, that big full 9-inning shutout, right? Like, that was great. And ever since then, he's just been okay. 3.5 ERA you can live with. It got a little bit bloated, but as we talked about on Friday, D-backs had a little bit of a starting pitching not advantage with their pitching, but there was a possibility that the Padres, with their inexperience, that someone like Stephen Kolek could get lit up against what is easily one of the best offenses in baseball, and in my opinion, in a lot of ways, sometimes just the best, right? This team gets crazy in a hurry. He gives up 2 home runs in this game. That wasn't great. 1 to Josh Naylor and 1 to Corbin Carroll. Not great, right? But this is a really good team, so I'm not going to kill my guy Stephen Kolek for it, right? But that's kind of it. It was just a bummer of a game. in a lot of ways. Like, the Padres just didn't really show up for this one, and it's been frustrating because Zach Gallen for the Arizona Diamondbacks has not been pitching very well, and not Zach Gallen, although we'll get into him in a second. Ryan Nelson just kind of killed the Padres. 5 innings in this one, allowed 6 hits, but only 1 run, and it wasn't even earned. Just not great for the Padres that they only scored 1 run off an error to start again another big, division series. But that's all for that game. Let's talk about game 2, because that's the game you guys probably want to hear me talk about. That's the game that's probably got the Dodgers fans back in my comments. I see you, and we'll talk about y'all later. In this game, let's begin first with the good stuff, which is Ryan Berger, who had a very good start in this one, and I was impressed. 5 innings, 3 earned runs on 3 hits, 2 walks, and 8 strikeouts, right? So he gave up a big hit. That's basically what happened here, and that's it. And for a guy like Berger, a young player, friend of the show as well, for him to just make one mistake to Eugenio Suarez, who is, of course, he's been a little tiny bit in a slump, but he's a home run king. I talked about this with Millard on Friday. It's just what he does, right? So I'm not going to kill him for making basically one major mistake to a really good power hitter, right? Otherwise, 8 strikeouts, and he also generated, I believe, 15 whiffs with 8 on his fastball. It's a good start, man. It's a good start, and it's something to take with us as we head into the future of this season, really. And we say, you know what? It's okay. It's a good start. It's a good start because we have to put together the back of this rotation, considering nobody trusts the Padres right now. We don't know exactly what's going to happen with Michael King, what's going to happen with Yu Darvish. It seems like it is a real, healthy competition right now between Vasquez, Berger, and Steven Kolek, the Kolek Kingdom. I think this is good because I think each of them has had their ups and downs and strengths and weaknesses. And it reminds me a little bit of Matt Waldron last year, who just came up and was just delivering solid work. He wasn't winning games by himself, but he's delivering solid work. And that's kind of what those 3 have been doing, right? Not winning games by themselves with the exception of a couple starts here and there, but just doing really well, right? But of course, that was not the main storyline of this game. Padres blow it in the bottom of the 9th inning. Just absolute disaster, 7-3, and Robert Suarez comes in, lets the bases get loaded without even getting an out. Just a true disaster. I'm sorry. Hold on. Single. Yeah, he got the bases loaded. He did get a strikeout on Corbin Carroll, which made me think, all right, Javi, don't worry, because I was actually about to start getting ready for bed. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, wait, let me stay up a little bit. Then he got that strikeout, and I was like, okay, we're good. And then it turned out we were very much not good, because Robert Suarez gives up every hit under the sun, including a 3-run triple from Geraldo Perdomo, potential all-star this year. Disaster. I mean, what can I say? Absolute disaster. Just really bad. Should Mike Schilt have taken Robert Suarez out? Maybe. But I do feel for Schilt because there's been a lot of starts lately, especially with the absence of Darvish and especially Michael King, where he has to conserve the bullpen. He's got to play for a whole season. So I don't want to hate him on that. But to not get at least someone warmed up is a fair criticism, I think. I know everybody likes Schilt. I know that the players love Schilt. But it's a fair criticism to be like, maybe you just get someone ready. Just get someone ready. Show maybe that, bases loaded, nobody out. Maybe he doesn't have it today, right? And it was very similar to the Angels disaster that he had, right? What was that, a month ago? So really tough loss, guys. But we're not done recapping the series. I also got a couple things to note from Saturday's game, including Jackson Merrill's injury and Luis Campusano breaking my heart. But first, a word from our sponsors. And that sponsor for today's show, ladies and gentlemen, is a little bit of a new one. And we love new stuff here on this podcast. Let me tell you, though, if you're learning a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you had a service emergency, like a burst pipe. If the first plumber didn't answer, did you wait? No, you called the next one. That's why having a reliable business line is so important, and that's why you need Open Phone. It is the #1 business phone system that helps you streamline and scale customer communication, all from an app on your phone or computer. That's right. It's great, guys. You don't want to juggle. You don't want to juggle all this stuff. You just want to be able to have something that solves everything instantly. Your whole team can share one number and respond to customers like a shared inbox, and no more like, hey, you do this, you do that. It's just shared thing, right? It's very, very good. Open Phone is also offering Locked On Padres listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnMLB. That's Open Phone, OpenPhone.com/LockedOnMLB. openphone.com/LockedOnMLB. And if you have existing numbers with another service, OpenPhone will port them over at no extra charge. OpenPhone, no missed calls, no missed customers. Go check them out. And just like that, everybody, we are thriving and vibing here, despite the weekend, into the second segment of this podcast. Remember, go follow me on Twitter /X and Blue Sky at Javipeno, JAVIIPENO. Yeah, Saturday's game. So obviously, Robert Suarez implosion was the big thing. Should still have taken him out. Leave what you think in the comments. I'd love to hear from you guys, because I think it's so easy sometimes to rip managers for the bullpen usage. Right? It just feels like every team has that, and it's just such an easy thing to do that I sometimes worry. Because I do agree with people with Schilt and saying, should have got someone ready. But I do sometimes, I'm like, wait. This is such a common thing. I gotta, like, sit back. Maybe I'm being crazy. I'm being too critical, because you just want to blame someone for such a catastrophe like that, when it's just, in actuality, every team's going to have games like this. But still, really rough moment for them. Luis Campusano in this game. 2 chances at RBIs in Saturday's game. He got the start. Dreadful. Looked horrible. And it really is just, I don't really know what else to say with Campusano at this point. I mean, he's in the game as the DH. He goes 0 for 4, strikes out 3 times, left 5 runners on base in total. That's the most of any player on the team, next to Luis Arraez with 4. So even more than Arraez, who's at the top of the lineup, right? Just really rough from him. Really rough. The first one, he swung at a pitch in the dirt for strike 3. The second at bat, he actually drew a 3-1 count and then swung at 2 pitches that also would have been ball 4. And then he goes for the K. Side note, for what it's worth, in game 2, Fernando Tatis Jr. clearly, in my opinion, went, right? He went for it, and it would have been a strike 3 call. Ends up not happening. He gets the RBI, and then Manny Machado gets, like, the bases clearing double to put the Padres up 7-3. So maybe we could chalk up the Suarez disaster to a ball don't lie situation, in which Tatis should have been called out, and maybe that changes things. I don't know. But let's talk about the last game of the series really quickly before we get into some other stuff. One more thing. Jackson Merrill, injured in this game, stealing second base, gets thrown out, by the way. Didn't like the attempt in the first place, but whatever, that's besides the point. Tag kind of hits him in the face. Looks like the helmet maybe hits him a little bit too. It bounces weird. He was just transferred yesterday to the 7-day IL with a concussion, concussion symptoms. So 7-day IL shouldn't be too bad. Hope to have him by the end of the week / beginning of next week. So it's nothing crazy, right? Like, this isn't like a disastrous moment, but annoying. And for a Padres offense that really lacks depth, and frankly, forget the depth. I actually don't care about that. A Padres offense that just hasn't been producing all that much this year, as I get weirdly in front of the camera there. Just hasn't been producing so much. Losing Merrill like this, it just kind of sucks out the, like you want to be into it, and you want to have him against the Dodgers. So that is a huge bummer. But at least let's be grateful that it's not a long-term injury like he had before. That was like 3 weeks or so, right? So that stinks, but what can you do? Game 3 for the Padres. Nice bounce back win for them. They win 8-2 in this one. Honestly, not too much to talk about. I just want to mention Brandon Lockridge replaced Jackson Merrill. Made a nice catch of this one. Pivetta and everybody cheered. It was nice. So Brandon Lockridge probably has been the best of that quartet trio, whatever it is, of outfielders that they've been throwing out there all year. Wade, Hayward, Connor Joe for a second. Right? Just because of the defense and the speed. So, cool stuff, right? Cool stuff for our guy, Brandon Lockridge. 1 for 4 as well with a single. So, whatever. Still going to need Jackson Merrill back. We'll see if Pro pulls the trigger on a trade out there, though. Other big thing, though. Nick Pivetta, excellent in this game. 7 innings, 2 earned runs on just 2 hits, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts against such an awesome offense, avoiding the sweep for the Padres. He looked great. And this is a guy that, like, you have to remember that it's just really, really important for Nick Pivetta to be good for this team, considering all of the injuries. And he showed up, right? Like, he showed up in a big way. 3.40 ERA in the season. Could very well end up being an all-star. And remember, he'd been getting roughed up recently. I was getting a little tiny bit worried. Tiny bit. I was like 8% worried, I'd say. 4 innings, 5 runs against the Dodgers. 6 innings, 5 runs against the Giants. Doesn't matter. Showed up in this one. So that is a nice takeaway from this weekend series, all in all. So not like, I think it could have been worse, right? It's just that loss was so rough, man. It was so rough. And I'm not kidding. You can ask anybody who knows me. I was like, you know what? I'm about to go to bed, but I think I need to watch this real quick. I was like, I need to like be safe. I need to make sure. Turns out I should have gone to bed, right? That Saturday game is going to lurk in the Padres sphere for a while now, especially if they don't play against the Dodgers well. Now without Merrill, it's going to be a tough series. So be prepared for things to get bad. This is a tough month for the Padres. And then they play the Royals after this. We're going to have to see how it breaks down. But Merrill headed to the IL. Could be worse, right? But let me tell you, two positives for the Padres, I think, if you had to sum it up, are Nick Pivetta and Fernando Tatis Jr. had a great weekend. Haven't talked about him a lot on today's show so far. Game 1, he goes 2 for 3 with a walk. Game 2, 2 for 5 with 2 RBIs. And Game 3, yesterday's game, goes 4 for 5 with an RBI, 3 runs scored, and a stolen base. And in general, hit the ball into the air a little bit. That was key. He's been slamming the ball into the ground for what feels like a month and a half now, and he's so talented that those could still be hits, but it has played a factor. He's been hitting the ball on the ground more than his entire career at this point, so I like that he put some balls into the air. Will he get back to the full power? We'll have to see. Will he fix some of his problems against lefties? We'll see. But a great weekend for our guy. Last thing before we head to break and do the mailbag, though, just want to shout out Matt Chapman and now Rafael Devers on the same team. Crazy stuff. That trade is insane. And I'd recommend everyone go check out Ben Caspick of Locked On Giants. I can't believe the Giants pulled that off. That was devil magic. It was Nico Harrison trading Luka Doncic. And I say that seriously because reportedly, what was it? Like they're already starting to slander him a little bit, talk about, he wasn't working for the team and whatnot. This isn't great. And they didn't negotiate with any other team. So, Preller's kicking himself right now. Preller would have been like, I'll give you Salas. I'll give you DeVries. You know what I mean? He was just like really tempted to do it. I know the Padres have financial constrictions, so I'm just messing around a little bit, but that's going to make the division harder. It's an elite bat. I don't care if he plays DH or first base, whatever it is. That's an elite bat. The Giants are a problem. And I'm really curious to see what happens with the D-backs, but Giants are a problem. They are. And this was why I was nervous about them heading into the year. We'll see. But the NL landscape is going to be tricky, guys. But not as tricky as navigating your very wild and crazy, as always, mailbag questions, which we will get to in a second. But first, a word from one of our sponsors. And that sponsor is our good friends over at The House that supplies you when it comes to all the skilled trades. Plumbing, HVAC, electrical work, whatever it is, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need, delivered fast from coast to coast. And if you need help with an order, don't worry. Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage, and now it's your turn. So go and join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use the promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Go on and check that thing out. And just like that, everybody, we are in the final segment of today's Locked On Padres podcast. Remember, if you would like to be featured in the Monday mailbag, well, reach out, leave comments, right? I'm actually going to start posting more survey questions on the YouTube, so join that community, and sometimes your responses will get read. That's right. You'll be part of the show. Isn't that great? So go check it out, or just tweet at me on Twitter/X. Whoops, my bad. On Twitter/X and Blue Sky at Javiipeno, JAVIIPENO. Let's get to it. Let's first start with a couple of just comments. At Tim Owens 2 says, we keep trying to trade prospects for big trade targets. It hasn't worked, and we have a ton of money tied up in big contracts. So there's 4 guys in the farm that should be off limits. The rest can be moved. What I really want to highlight here is not just like the whole, because here's the thing, is the Padres have traded for some big time players, don't get me wrong, and the contracts are really bloated, but those aren't always one and the same, right? Like the signing of the contracts has nothing to do with the fact that we trade prospects all the time, but the aggressive nature, and more importantly, just the idea of like, we keep doing this, let's try something new, is a fair strategy that I'm okay with, right? Like every deadline, the Padres are almost always going for the biggest person available, and they're never doing just minor stuff. Juan Soto trade, Mike Clevenger trade, Trevor Rosenthal trade. Although some of these have worked out. Don't get me wrong. What else? The Adam Frazier trade, right? Like the last year, Tanner Scott. Like they always go for the top guy and don't conserve their farm. So I would be actually open to the idea of like, let's try something new, because that got us here. I definitely feel that way when it comes to extending or signing players. And frankly, I still feel about that way when it comes to the Jackson Merrill contract, which I think is fine. But I'm also taking into account the rest of the team. So that's why it worries me a little bit. But I understand the sentiment, good sir, and I feel you. At Robert Birdie 9938, the Padres roundtable on 97.3 was debating Campusano's situation, and even all of them had no clue what they were doing with him. They need to either play him, send him to AAA, or trade him. Just stop wasting a roster spot. I don't know what to do about Campy anymore. I mean, that Saturday game, I was just like I can't defend him anymore. I know I've said that like 7 times. The reason why I keep saying it so many times is because I do believe that like he should probably deserve a second chance, or at least a chance, not even a second, just a first chance of like, why is Martin Maldonado beating him? I just hate that every time I have this opinion, Luis Campusano makes the Padres look smart, right? He has horrible at-bats, leaving 5 runners on base that could have put the game away potentially on Saturday, and just swings at stuff in the dirt, right? Like, I think he's a change of scenery guy. I think if I'm another team in baseball, maybe I say there might be a decent backup catcher here who could at least just hit for us. I just give him nothing. Like, I don't have to give him anything for Campusano. But unfortunately, he keeps making the Padres look right for not playing him. Even though I don't think they are, he makes them look right. And that's all that matters, I think, right now. So really, really annoying. What else we got? We got a bunch of Dodger fans this week. This might shock you because of last week, but the strike zone, a lot of people were making fun of me, calling me an A-hat, right? Like all these sort of things because I was talking about the Manny Machado strike 3 call that I thought was not a strike, and it was a really bad call, and it changed the momentum of the game in a lot of ways. Do they end up winning that first game? Maybe. Nathaniel Nunez. They're saying, the K-Zone and StatCast called Machado a strike. The ABS showed it was a strike, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm going to put on video right now what I was looking at when I was doing that. Number 7 is the strike call. Is it is it not the craziest call I've ever, it's not the craziest strike 3 call that I've ever seen, right? But bottom line is it does look like it's outside the zone. In a lot of ways. And I understand that there's probably some more in-depth stuff. I understand it's a little bit of a 50-50 call, but bottom line is that call is unfortunate because if they get that call, the Padres might have a chance at winning that game. So in terms of StatCast 3D, my man, StatCast showed that, as I put on the screen for all my video listeners, might have been a ball. So anyway, moving on though, more comments. I just want to address this one more time because I love to. At Otani 02AN928, last season's Madres were the best team and were the best in MLB, but now have been surpassed by SF. This series proved that SD have no chance against LA once our pitching rotation fully recovers. Manny Machado will cry a river all the way into October. Firstly, let me just say there's another person. Cali, Wayne, Kev, Blue Island, bosses of baseball, the Dodger fans, also the Madres thing. So 2 things. My first guy that I just brought up, Manny Machado. Machado means wet. And not to go there, but might have been I don't know if they were calling Manny Machado a wetback there. Just saying. A little bit weird for you to use that wet phrase, right? Machado specifically for a Latino player. Just saying. A little bit weird. But the second thing is, it is so funny what Dodgers fans tell on themselves and call the Padres the Madres. Using Madres as a derogatory tells me everything I need to know about you. But anyway, moving on. A lot of funny things else this week for sure. Let's do a positive comment from my guy, Matt Clarkson 333. Yo, is that a Kurama plushie? Yes, everybody. If you're watching on me, this will be on the right side of the screen. Right over here, the guy that I'm pointing to, yeah, that's a little fox guy. He's from Naruto. And anybody who doesn't watch Naruto, I recommend it. It's fantastic. Although I don't like Shippuden as much, but it's great. And that's one of the characters there. I put him there because I want to populate my set with as much little goodies and Padre stuff as possible as I get my hands on them. But he was yellow, so I thought he would fit. Thank you for the noticing, though. Very much appreciate that. At Billy Buckshot 6909 says, so our rotation, will it have Burger and King? I don't know. That's what I was mentioning. Before kind of at the top of this podcast, kind of a little bit of a positive audition period to see who's going to round out the end of this rotation. I'm curious. I really am, because I think Randy Vasquez has the worst stuff of the three, potentially, but he keeps somewhat producing. You know what I mean? I think he's a long inning reliever, though, but that's just me. At Super Reviews for You, Tatis has an 801 OPS since the suspension. He is not a superstar until he can get back about 900 OPS in a season. Yeah, give or take. I mean, it's a fair thing to bring up. I'm hoping, though, that Tatis is back, because remember, that first month was like insane. And he's still having a good season. He still looks great, but he's a little bit more of that Julio Rodriguez thing, where he's a lot more, he's a great player, but he's more of just great player and star-ish player. And he's a little bit more of the fame gives him a little bit more clout than the actual on-field ability, but we'll see. I'm hoping that he's going to start breaking out of this slump. At Solitary Soldier says, a lot of people would say I'm crazy, but why don't they call the Braves for Acuna to play left field? Ronald Acuna Jr., they already won a championship with him. The Braves are our best right now. They're all out. They're well out of the wild card division. Braves aren't going anywhere. I mean, it's way too early. Report from Jeff Passan, I think that I saw, was like they haven't decided yet if they're trading at the deadline. And even if they were, it's insane to say that. Stop it. What are we doing? You know what I mean? I will say this. If he had a crazy contract, maybe, but Ronald Acuna is on like a 10-year, $100 million contract. It's the best value in sport. Like, it's the best value in the sport right now, so that's not happening. At MarkFan5835 says, Cease was a very bad trade. No, he wasn't. He's very good. What are we doing? He's a great trade. And lastly, at TonySue8860, those criticisms of Arise are really far off base, referring to mine. None take into account the big sacrifice in stats Arise is making batting second, which means he's almost always expected to sacrifice himself for the greater good every time Tatis gets on base, and particularly starting games. Look, I might save the rest of this comment for tomorrow's show, but that is a hilarious defense of Luis Arise. He's not hitting well for the greater good. Tony Sue, my man. If you have a below 100 WRC plus, if you're only hitting 270 and it's only singles, you're just not that great of a hitter. That's just how this works. And if you're not walking, right? I watch Arise play, and people who watch Arise play, I'd love to hear you in the comments, because I actually do think when you watch him play, it's maddening to watch. I think Arise is developing a little bit of a thing similar to Javier Baez, where he's a lot more fun to talk about until he's on your team. Right? Javier Baez is like that too, where he makes these incredible plays. And look, I love every Puerto Rican player, as y'all know. I'm going to hype them up as much as possible. Arise, a lot more frustrating to watch the everyday. I know this from Mets fans, Tigers fans, Cubs fans, who are like, don't get me wrong, like, he's not awful. He's not an awful player, but he's a lot more fun when you only look at the what's it called? The small picture. Right? You only get the small taste of him versus when you watch him every day. There are times when I'm watching Arise, I'm like, geez. I mean, he swung at a pitch that almost hit him. And then it hit for an out and he hurt himself in Sunday's game. And I'm like, he could be frustrating. And I don't think he's going to get paid all that much this offseason. But we will see. Tony Sue, will get back to your question, though, because I think it's interesting nonetheless. That about does it for today's edition of Locked On Padres podcast, guys. The only pod that may be better than the Padres themselves. Remember to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from. One more time, follow me on Twitter/X. At Javipeno. JAVIIPENO. Tomorrow we're going to be recapping the Dodgers game, talking about that Luis Arise thing, and much more. Until that next time, though, stay safe and, of course, stay faithful. My Friar Faithful homies, take care.